Hello again, humans. It is I, Jim the Ape. And this is going to sound cliche, but I really didn't want to make this video, but I feel duty-bound as someone who doesn't just respond to one kind of stupidity, or stupidity coming from only one side of the political spectrum. And on top of being an indiscriminate debunker of all ideas and arguments that I find to be stupid, I'm actually a big fan of the person I'm responding to today. I know that's cliche as well, but it's true. Not only do I enjoy the hell out of most of his content to the point where I go back and rewatch several of his videos, but I even consider this man to be my primary inspiration on YouTube, and he's probably the reason I'm so aggressively anti-circumcision. But recently he's taken a position that I've known about and disagreed with for a long time and ran with it straight off the proverbial deep end, to the point where yours truly made a big enough stink on Twitter about how bad his arguments were that he actually responded to me a few times. I won't bore you with the actual tweets, as you can find those on your own, and since it incentivizes you to go follow me on Twitter if you haven't already. Instead, I want to end this long, rambling intro and respond to a video he posted on the subject, which I have to qualify somewhat by saying that it's expressing his position and his straw men of the counter arguments in the form of a satirical cartoon. And sorry, Doc, but satire doesn't give you carte blanche to misrepresent my arguments. Let's finally get into it, shall we?
What did you do to the dog?
Isn't he cute?
He's got no snout and no legs.
I know! It's so adorable, don't you think? He's like a teddy bear, except he can feel pain.
Wow, already with the supposedly comedic exaggerations. So this is about dogs, and you seem to be suggesting here that the only reason people have dogs is because they're cute, as though there isn't any responsibility in it, i.e. feeding the dog, taking care of its medical needs, keeping it sheltered and safe, etc. And the only people who rejoice in a dog's ability to feel pain are sadistic assholes who are the reason animal cruelty laws exist.
I don't think he's very happy like that.
Why do you hate dogs?
Pardon me?
Stop dissing my best friend, you dog hater!
You're keeping a mutant dog in a cage, and I'm the dog hater.
Okay, once again I have to stop you to address a series of points that just whizzed by. First of all, I did not say, nor did anyone else I saw suggest that you hate dogs. I just think you project human ideas onto them that you assume they care about and disregard how different humans and dogs are as creatures. But I'll probably get into that more a little bit later. Another point I'd like to address is the cage thing. Now, you could argue that cages, leashes, and even houses restrict a dog's movement and therefore are just different varieties of prison. But not all dog owners are created equal, and the dogs in my house spend very little time in cages, just a minute or two while they eat so that they don't steal each other's food. And the rest of the time, they have the freedom to roam the house, lay down on pillows that are on the floor, drink from their water bowl, go up on the couch, and they even sleep on a rather large bed, queen size I think, with my pet human's sister. And they're not considered pets or property so much as they are considered part of the family. And there's one more thing I have to talk about, and that's your reference to mutation. Here's the thing. A long time ago, gray wolves developed a genetic trait where some of them were less hostile towards humans. They approached primitive man and offered protection from other animals in exchange for food. It wasn't exactly a spoken agreement, but that's how it played out. Over time, they developed traits that humans found appealing. They became smaller, they became cuter, until eventually there were all the different breeds we have today. Granted, there was definite human influence, but it was still something that happened due to the natural process of evolution. And you're making the case that this is a bad thing, but I see the relationship between humans and dogs as being symbiotic, or at least mutually beneficial. Not only that, but over time, the dog's end of the bargain has become less and less challenging. They don't need to physically defend us anymore. They can just live in a nice cozy home and bark if there's ever an intruder. And one last thing I want to mention about this, much like the people who were responsible for the transatlantic slave trade, the people who really started the breeding of dogs are fucking dead! And it's come so far since then that you can't put the proverbial cat back in the bag, to make a loosely related pun. You can't erase what was done, you can only propose what to do now, which I asked you about in a tweet. No response to that tweet as of yet.
I love my dog and my dog loves me. Watch what happens when I open the cage. Oh, Jesus. Oh, thank God. Thank you. Oh, I was going nuts in there. I'm literally bouncing off the walls. I haven't eaten food for a day. My blood sugar is tanking. Look, do you have anything I can say? It loves me. Look how pleased it was to see me.
Your hair's a hat. It's fuzzy and there's nothing wrong with that. Your head, it finally caved, and you said all dogs are slaves. What about a fucking cat?
It's so loyal. Not like cats. Those self-serving assholes. Oh my God, get out, you selfish bastard. Go on, bugger off, and take your silly toy with you. You're always filling this place up with your shit.
So having a cat is okay because they bring you things? Yeah, because, I mean, it's not like dogs ever pick something up with their mouth and bring it to their owner and, like, I don't know, the person could grab it from them and throw it and then the dog could go bring it back and they can make, like, a game out of it or something. You're totally right, Mike. That doesn't exist at all. Good point.
And anyway, I have to keep it in this cage or it'll die. It can't survive without my help.
Yes, because you got rid of most of its breathing and walking apparatus. You turned a functioning, independent, naturally evolved animal into a retarded blob of meat that is 100% dependent on you for its survival.
Oh, so you want me to kill it, do you? Do you think we should kill all dogs, and you're telling me you're not a dog hater?
I definitely didn't say that.
I distinctly remember you saying, I hate dogs and we should kill them all.
Okay, the funny thing about this is that it might actually be inspired, perhaps just in part, by a tweet I sent in an argument with someone called Egalitarian Eagle. I asked him, what was his solution? Just send them back into the wild and hope for the best? He said yes, and basically that bigger dogs would survive, but anything smaller than a beagle would probably die. But that's okay because according to him, anything smaller than a beagle doesn't deserve to exist. I think he actually used those exact words too. Anyway, I responded sarcastically saying something like, oh, so it's hashtag kill all tiny dogs then. Okay, got it. So that might be where Doctor Randomercam is getting this. But it's another misrepresentation of what I was saying. I was making the point that it's more unethical to just let dogs into the wild since they've become so heavily domesticated, and at this point we know that most of them would die. So as I see it, the solution is to keep them domesticated, cut down on the population by doing what Bob Barker always said to do, as regrettable as that may be, and by punishing those who actually physically harm animals, which we already do with the aforementioned animal cruelty laws. In other words, there's not really a problem here. The way we already do things is about the best we can do.
Actually, all I said was you shouldn't genetically distort their bodies and keep them in a cage.
I never said that.
No, I did. I'm talking about... Wow, really?
See, you admit it! You want all dogs to die because you want them to escape the cages that keep them alive! You do hate dogs! You're just like Peter!
Your hair's not shown in many of your many videos. You take an angry tone, you bitch and then you moan, and then you spread some purple prose.
What?
Look, dogs are stupider than us, so it's perfectly acceptable to keep them as slaves, you dog hater!
Once again, a huge misrepresentation of an argument I was making about the cognitive differences between humans and other animals. But since Twitter is such a terrible platform for nuanced arguments, let me try to put it another way. Dogs are much simpler creatures than us. They don't need the kind of complex psychological or emotional validation that we often feel we need to be happy. All they really need to have the dog equivalent of happiness is to be fed, to have shelter, to be comfortable, and to have a pack, which can be other dogs, or it can be humans, or it can be a mix of both. As long as they're not being mistreated, like the kind of animal cruelty you cherry-picked and conflated with all dog owners, they're perfectly content. And plenty of dog owners love their dogs and treat them like furry little offspring rather than any kind of property, and certainly not like slaves. But next you'll be saying that having kids is slavery for the same reasons.
How?
You eat meat, don't you? Well, then you're no better than me. Stop eating meat, you hypocrite.
Okay, I wasn't really making this kind of argument, but I did find it ironic that Egalitarian Eagle was clearly on this whole dog ownership is slavery side of it, but he outright stated that he thought keeping and raising animals for food, like cows, pigs, and chickens, was okay because that's different. Now, I happen to think that both are okay as long as the animals are being treated as gently and humanely as possible, but Egalitarian Eagle was making the case that dogs are just slaves for our entertainment, which is just plain incorrect. We keep dogs as companions. We treat them like one of our own, and we give them everything they could conceivably want. By we, I mean responsible, caring dog owners, many of whom spoil their dogs just as much or even more than they spoil their children.
Omnivores eat meat. Therefore, you get to mutate and imprison your friends.
I didn't breed the fucking dogs, Mike! And I've already explained why imprisonment isn't an accurate description of the domestication of dogs. But I really have to agree with my number one fan and first and only Patreon patron, Hank McCoy, aka Beast, when he says that this is just like the original sin argument used by religious people. Or the aforementioned slavery existed, therefore white people should pay black people reparations and shit. It's the same thing. Someone a long time ago did something bad, and you've inherited that via some superficial similarity, so you're just as bad as they are. Well, guess what, Doc? You're British, so that must mean you're just as bad as King Henry VIII, you limey bastard. Why do you kill all your wives and eat so many chicken legs, Mike?
Do you think you've said something sensible and compassionate there? Do you think you've made yourself sound like less of a crazy person and not more? Because I may have to disappoint you, I'm afraid.
I'm not letting my slave go free until you and everyone in the world becomes vegan. That's a perfectly fair trade-off.
Your hair is short, and you can't stand intelligent retort. You flung your shit at me, and then you chose to flee, while I did nothing of the sort.
Hang on, don't you eat meat?
Yes, I do.
You eat meat and you keep slaves.
Yes, and you can't tell me not to do either of those things until you've stopped doing both of them. You genocidal dog hater. I can't believe you called me a bad person. You called me evil. You called me a genocidal dog hater. How dare you? And it's not a slave. Dogs are too stupid to be slaves. It's just a prisoner.
Again, it's not that they're stupid. They have different cognitive function than us higher apes, and therefore they don't care about abstract concepts of freedom, individuality, and free will. They really only give a shit that they're fed when they're hungry, that they're comfortable and safe, that they're not being beaten, and that they have some kind of pack, like I said before, which does, to some degree, include affection from humans, like petting and holding. Those things can probably be found in other species in the wild, being done by animal parents. It's just that in the case of dogs, that role is taken on by a human instead. Holy shit, you can't even get through 2 sentences of this so-called satire without saying something that sends me on a fucking ramble of biblical proportions. In length, I mean, not pretension of divine knowledge and importance. I'm not Armored Skeptic.
An innocent prisoner that I put here for my amusement. How the hell is that anything like a slave?
Like I asked Egalitarian Eagle, what labor are dogs forced to do? Is it a universal practice to brutally beat dogs for misbehaving, or is that just a rare anomaly? I can ask the same thing about raping dogs, and I imagine it's even less common than beating them. And perhaps what I should have put more emphasis on in that exchange was that he was arguing, like you are, that dogs are just for our amusement or entertainment, when in reality it's much more than that. The bond that humans and dogs have is one of companionship, a symbiotic, mutually beneficial relationship that has evolved over hundreds, if not thousands, of years, to the point where I would not be surprised at all to find out that it is somehow ingrained in our DNA, as it almost certainly is ingrained in theirs. And I didn't want to do this because it's a cheap tactic, but why not? You've been all about cheap argumentative tactics since this whole thing hit the fan on Twitter. Here is a picture of slaves. Here is a picture of a dog. Notice any fucking differences, Mike?
It's just an organism that I own. Jesus, you must have lost your goddamn mind or something.
Your hair's concealed, but all your mental flaws are now revealed. Say I deny reality, because I hate humanity. I think your brain needs to be healed.
How dare you tell me I've lost my mind? What are you talking about? What, you want to punch God in the nipple? Where's this coming from?
Are you okay?
Why are you making up random shit about God's nipples? You're normally smart, but you completely lose your shit over dogs.
Ding, 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 Doc. Ding a fucking ling-ling. That sentence sums up perfectly this entire video. I think I'll put it in the thumbnail or something.
Stop getting triggered, will you? And while you're at it, stop riding horses, stop using carrier pigeons, and stop wearing leather shoes.
I don't do any of those things.
Well, you should. Animals are stupid, so it doesn't matter. Why do you hate dogs?
I already addressed the stupid thing and that I don't think you hate dogs, but the thing is, you seem to be implying that anyone who doesn't think like you on this subject is just a complete sociopath who doesn't care about any unethical treatment of animals, when nothing could be further from the truth. Most people are made more uncomfortable by even fictional violence against animals than they are by real violence against people. I think it's because of the fact that non-human animals are pretty much incapable of malice. So it's not that no one cares about the suffering of mistreated animals, it's just that very few people count living in a house and being fed and cared for as such mistreatment.
You must have had bad experiences with dogs, and that's why you prefer your own species.
By the way, that's what the parody lyric was about before. Apparently, the once good doctor believes that if you love dogs in the way that many dog owners do, it doesn't matter if you treat them like family, it just means you hate humanity. Granted, there are some people who will say that they prefer dogs to people, but like I said before, that could be because dogs won't lie to you or talk shit about you behind your back, because they're basically incapable of such deception or hatred. Also, as an aside, you may have noticed I never brought up the fact that you're a mailman. That's because I don't think that has anything to do with your position on this. It's irrelevant to me.
I know this is true because I hate my own species, and that's why I like my captive mutant teddy bear creatures. You're weird. Stop talking at me. Why won't you stop talking at me? This is abuse. I am currently backing slowly out of the room while you are standing there talking as you project everything into upside down land.
Your hair is brown, but you're talking like a social justice clown. You said fuck off to me, and to all who disagree, here's your dunce cap fitted crown.
We love you, we really do. You keep us sane and alive, and we treasure you for telling other people truths that they don't like. But if you tell us a truth that we don't like, then be prepared to be the new kid in school all over a fucking again.
And that's where all the bitter, salty, passive-aggressive bullshit is coming from. Normally, your audience agrees with you, and your fans just love everything you do. I know because I'm one of them! But this time, you went and took the least defensible position you've ever espoused and decided that was the hill you wanted to die on. And lo and behold, how the dog owners flocked to you and expressed their disagreement. On the internet? Imagine the fuck out of that! And mind you, I use owner as an umbrella term. My pet human sister prefers to be referred to as a fur mama because she sees her dogs as children of hers and she treats them as such. Come to think of it, dogs are a lot like children that stay children. Instead of growing up into the kind of agency and independence that we see in adult humans, they always stay by your side. And you may twist that into unwarranted comparisons to slavery or imprisonment, but I've already pretty much laid out my arguments as to why that doesn't work. The point is, you couldn't handle the disagreement, so you threw a bitch fit on Twitter, and then you made this video.
Because friendship is, and always will be, what we say it is. Alright, we're done. Fail. Bottom deck fail. Ungraded. You have wasted my time. Now commence your Noah's goddamn ark of brainless, screeching straw creatures. Panda out.
I am not the one with the straw men here. I present your satire exactly as you presented it on your channel, plus my commentary. Perhaps someday I'll make a follow-up video responding to a more serious video of yours on the subject, ironically breaking your no turd twice rule with videos by you. But for now, I'll leave you with this. Your hair is dark. You end with references to Noah's Ark. You scream to free the slaves who weren't made to live in caves. I think you might have missed the mark. Your hair's not blue, and it matters so much less than what you do. I was your biggest fan, but with this latest rant, I've lost too much respect for you.